Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this very special and important digital live of News18.com. Last week, a big Chinese patrol party of 200 were stopped by the Indian troops when they tried to transgress the LSE somewhere between Yangtze and Bumla in the Tawang sector. Now, this party had come patrolling, and they had also apparently tried to damage some of the Indian defenses, which includes some unoccupied bunkers, and some of them were reportedly detained by India for temporarily. They were detained, and before that, after that, the matter was resolved mutually at the local commanders level. So this is very important because next week, Indian 14 Corps commander, Indian Army's 14 Corps commander with his Chinese counterpart, they have the next round of Corps commander meetings, and this comes just a month after a similar incident took place in the central sector in Uttarakhand's Baraoti. So today we have a very special guest with us, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, who has served in Tawang not just once but twice as the CEO as well as the brigade commander. Welcome to the live, sir. And so, very first question: what does this big patrolling reason that the Chinese has started like coming in big patrol teams, so 200, 150, and trying to damage these defenses? I mean, what does it exactly signify?
Amrita, at the very outset, thank you very much for having a conversation with me. First and foremost, let me tell you, Chinese have been doing that. It is not that they're doing it for the first time. It is they've been coming up to their line of perception, and that is what they've been saying and sticking to it. They don't go beyond the line of perception, but their line of perception isn't our line of perception. That's very, very important, and that's where you use the word transgressing. Now, when we see to it that their line of perception could be what they think so, but we know exactly where we are. We have also not at all. We are still exactly where our line of perception is. So along in Arunachal Pradesh, more or less we are along the McMahon line, other than in the area of Sumon Chu, where they are on our side and the Thagla ridges, in there. Otherwise, the McMahon line should have run along the Thagla ridge. That isn't happening in Arunachal. So, but that incident which happened in 87, 88, that's the past now. But at the moment in Yangtze, the place where you referred to, it's been happening earlier. It's happened when I was there in 99. It has happened even later when I was there. Even now, they've been coming. So invariably, what happens is when the troops of theirs also do change over, they also are being guided. This is our line of perception. So they do try and come up to their line of perception. Obviously, we are all very alert to ensure that they don't transgress that their line of perception at all, and we try and see to it that there is no face-off, but at the same time, gentlemanly and politely, they're told to go back. So the troop turnover also. The second thing, it could be that, yes, what you rightly said, the 13th round of the Corps Commander level talks are due now, anytime now. We've had the Chief of the Army Staff also give a statement that we intend to have something good coming out of the 13th round of talks. But with China, it's, I would put it this way, we have endless discussions which will only lead to frustration, and nothing very substantial really comes out of it. They'll give a little bit, like what we've seen now in Penang. So after we vacated the Kailash Heights, what happened in the area of Gogra, what happened in the area of Galwan, and now you're hoping that in the area of Hot Spring, there might be a bit of a disengagement that may take place. But however, in Depsang and Demchok, the friction points still continue. So there is, the Chinese are not likely to give in. Then you've just heard at Baraoti also, where the ITBP is responsible for it. They did come, but there was no face-off. They went back by the time we realized that they had gone back. That kind of a thing happens. Yes, this only means one thing, that we have to be extremely vigilant. We cannot allow Chinese to do what they're doing, because Chinese, they may say something and might just do the opposite. So these talks are okay. They should lead to disengagement, and disengagement will lead to peace and tranquility along the LAC. And that is what is the first process that we need to go in for. Because the Chinese are looking at disengaging two things. That is the disengagement process at the border and the trade. Whereas they are insisting that both these things should be set aside and the trade must continue and let the border peace and tranquility talks continue in the manner in which they intend to proceed further. But there is, I think the government of India has taken a very, very firm stand that no way we have to have peace and tranquility along the border, then only the relations with China can improve. So that is where we are at the moment.
That's right, sir. As you rightly pointed out, the patrolling has been going on. Our sides also go patrolling there, and they also come here. But do you think there is a shift in the way the patrolling is being carried out? Is this some sort of an aggressive patrolling? If such a big team comes and tries damaging some defense unoccupied bunkers, I mean, the army sources, everybody has confirmed they have sought to downplay the incident by saying that there were no damages to Indian defenses. But there was an attempt. So do you think this sort of aggressive patrolling is a change in the stance of the Chinese?
See, the Chinese have always been insisting on what they call it the grazing rights. Because, in Bharahoti also, it's that same 80 square kilometers of area is the grazing ground. Again, in Yangtze also, it is the grazing ground. Because the yaks do come. And sometimes they have a very, invariably, because Bumla is one place where the talks between the two countries take place. Formal talks take place at Bumla. And as and when such kinds of disputes, if they do crop up, then you have a formal talk again at Bumla. And wherein these kind of, sort of misgivings between the two countries can be sorted out. But the strength is what you are referring to. That is what is a matter of concern. But yes, this kind of strength is because I think they are a little on little after Galwan. They know that they can't have to have a smaller patrol. It's much better to be a larger size. Should, as I said, something go wrong, they should be prepared to be able to take it. But we have all along been maintaining peace and tranquility. The very first thing, we have our drills in place, even though the peace and tranquility agreement of 93, 96, and subsequently, all of them seem to have been thrown into the dustbin by the Chinese after what has happened in Galwan. But, we take pride that, well, not a shot was fired. But notwithstanding a shot not fired, we lost 20 troops. And much that they may have lost more or less, that doesn't really concern us. But we did lose troops. That's what our great concern is. A shot may not have been fired, but things have gone something which had never happened since 62 or 67 for that matter. So we have to be concerned. Yes, the strength is a little more than what invariably patrolling is about 18, 20 people, 20, 25 people come, go back and but having to get strength of 100 or even 200 like you what mentioned, or even to come along with horses or to stay for a longer period of time, these are indications which are definitely trying to assert their that assertiveness that yes, might is right, and that is what we have to be wary about. That is what we need to be concerned about, and that is where we ought to be very, very careful not to let, because talks are going on. At the same time, we don't find any, lessening of the kind of mobilization that the Chinese have undertaken in maybe in their area. But suddenly, definitely the kind of infrastructure that is coming up, kind of roads and helipads and airstrips have been upgraded, the kind of living accommodation for their soldiers in the garb of wanting to improve the Tibetan infrastructure along the border areas, the so-called villages that are coming up, the kind of high caliber weapons that have been moved, though maybe about 100, 150 kilometers from the LAC. The very fact that things are building up, they give a feeling of that the Chinese may not do. The Chinese believe in what they say the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without a fight. So this is all being done with the view to pressurize India as much as they can.
As much as possible.
But we must be able to withstand that.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we did this story this morning about how this whole thing happened and how they were sent back. And we also mentioned in our story that how this is not the first time. In 2016 and 2011, similar incidents had taken place in Tawang, in the Yangtze region. So, if you can just explain us the strategic importance of Tawang for the general readers.
See, as what is in the public domain, Tawang has been a bone of contention that the Chinese have been insisting. But not just Tawang, the Chinese have been calling the entire Arunachal Pradesh as southern Tibet and wanting to claim the entire area. And after 1987, since we've declared Arunachal as a state and no longer northeast frontier agency, it's not Nepal, it's a state which has come up. And Chinese have been, protesting all along that it's part of southern Tibet. That doesn't really concern us because it's the McMahon line, which was drawn in 1914, accepted, initialed by the Chinese and of course by the Tibetan government at that point of time. But the importance of Tawang lays because it's a monastery which has been established by one of the Dalai Lama, the 6th Dalai Lama. What we have today is the 14th Dalai Lama. So that monastery has been the place of birth of our Dalai Lama, and the way it has come up. Tawang is, of course, a tourist attraction. It is occupied by, and the people there are majority, I would say 95% are Buddhists. So that's one place in Arunachal, because Arunachal Pradesh by itself also have a lot of kind of religions, not the kind of things that somebody would be followers of the moon, somebody a tribal religion, but this is an established old religion, the Buddhists that are at Tawang. And Tawang has now been a part of India, it's all along now been a part of India. And the Chinese have always been eyeing this particular place and been insisting that no, Tawang trade with us on the aspects of Tawang. But of course, a lot of agreements have taken place where established populations on both sides, nothing is going to be happening on that score. So Tawang is now a populated area, not populated by us. It's been for centuries now a populated area. And number one. Number two, all of them are Indian. And you'll be surprised to know that everybody in Arunachal Pradesh speaks Hindi. Can you imagine that you can go and talk to anybody and they would be able to converse with you, and despite their own language, which may change every 20, 30 kilometers, their own religion, which might change every 30, 40 kilometers. But one thing that stands common in Arunachal Pradesh is they all speak good Hindi. And so much so that children also, you find that they come for singing songs of Indian Idol and things of those kind. Is indicated the kind of integration that has taken place of Arunachal Pradesh with India and has always been. But this integration itself is indicative, which Chinese have been saying, no, this is southern Tibet, but have been accepting the fact that, yes, and that Sundaram-Chu incident, which took place in 87, 88. Other than that, I think we have not had any incident taking place in Arunachal Pradesh. And thereafter, it led to then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi going on that, I would say after 1988, the things have eased. Between the two countries at the peace and tranquility agreements, which came subsequently in Narasimha Rao's time, 93, 96, and later on. So these have all led to normalization of relations. But there was a little rider that normalization of relations should have led to resolving this border dispute. This hasn't happened. It has given impetus to trade. It has given impetus to good relations between the two countries till Galwan happened. But the border dispute hasn't got settled. So that like the perception we talk about China has been going on. So their perception is, and they don't know, even the exchange of maps, they're not willing to take place. How many rounds of talks we've had, whether it is on boundary or it is border or it is Galwan or it is Eastern Ladakh. The talks, I said, can be endless. It's from 1949, ever since the Communist Party has come in power in China, talks are going on. And talks are on and on. So much so that in 1950, you have a letter from Sardar Patel telling us in no uncertain terms being written to Pandit Nehru that, look, the Chinese intentions are not noble, do not accept what they're doing. Their behavior is not that of a good neighbor. The behavior is exactly like what enemy would be. So that in 1950, if Sardar Patel could predict the behavior and I think the way they're going about it is purely indicative of, definitely the Chinese conduct is suspect. I would put it that way.
Right. Right, sir. And given that they had once captured Tawang in 1962, that sort of gives them sort of a confidence that they can possibly try to transgress there again.
But
So,
yes, they
my
did come.
yeah,
Amrita, they did come in
yeah,
1992, no doubt. But they did go back also. If
yeah,
they had that kind of a claim which they were otherwise are claiming, they
right,
would not have gone
right,
back. The very fact that
right,
they did come, they did occupy Tawang in 62, but they did go
yeah,
back after the ceasefire. So that's
absolutely.
one indication. Certain areas like Aksai Chin, they have not gone back. So Aksai
True,
Chin, you
true,
find sticking on to whatever they think is there, or
absolutely.
they feel that
Yeah,
strategically they have not gone back. But this
true,
area, well, the pressure is on. But I think at the back of their mind, they know for sure that this area belongs to India, and that the McMahon line, much that they may not want the word McMahon or anything like that, by whatever other name that they wish to give now or later, but they accept it in their heart of heart that this is Indian land and that they are unnecessarily putting pressure on India.
right. So before we end the conversation, I just want to know from you what is the way ahead, because right now both sides have carried out extensive infrastructure work. Both sides have pushed in a lot of troops, thousands of additional troops across along the LSC. So and we are staring at a harsh winter ahead at the high altitudes. So what do you think is the way forward, and how do you think this whole thing will pan out in the next couple of months?
This Amrita is what you've asked is $1 million question, because however hard, there's a total lack of trust. That is the first, the foremost. There is a total lack of trust. And after Galwan, I don't think it will take many, many years to build that trust again. Because after 93 and for the last about 20 odd years, good relations have been built up. Even I can tell you from my own personal experience, every time that I would talk to them at the border personnel meeting at Bumla, it was very good relations. Even if they did come at Yangtze, and if I did tell them, come on, please go back, they would listen to it and they would go back. Time and again, we had good interaction, and we had a lot of Kampai sessions. Kampai, after a session of a border personnel meeting, there would be cheers with wine on both sides. So we really had good relations. But the way they conduct after Galwan and the way they've gone about from around May 2020, it seems that there's a certain amount of hidden agenda in what the Chinese are doing. And that hidden agenda is expansionism, number one. Number two, probably the Xi Jinping is in the old mold of what Mao Zedong was, that the power flows from the barrel of the gun. And unlike Deng Xiaoping, who probably felt that, well, lie low, progress, but lie low. That doesn't seem to be the attitude of Xi Jinping. He feels that we are the center of the universe and it's now my time and I must do it and show to the world that we are right and that's where we are. So with this kind of an attitude, it seems very difficult. So I can only hope that some good sense prevails in the Chinese mind. But notwithstanding that, because the border dispute remains where it is, their perception lies where it is, and their salami slicing continues a little bit here and there every now and then. So we have to be alert. We must get into a position of strength, irrespective of whatever it be, because Chinese respect strength, and that is what is deterred them so far in eastern Ladakh. They suddenly seem to have realized that the Indian troops are there in the same equal number in Ladakh. If they have got 50,000 troops, the Indians also have equal number. And the Indian troops are better acclimatized. They can, stand up to their antics. So there's a lot that the Chinese know they're not good at. They may be economically very sound. They may be even technologically very advanced. They could even be better modernized. But when it comes to, troops on ground, when it comes to the morale of the troops on ground is concerned, I think we are definitely better off. And that advantage we must build on, and we must slowly and steadily modernize. We must slowly and steadily ensure that we are fully prepared to take on China anytime. Anytime. They should not, Chinese, because the way you rightly said, the infrastructure has come up, the way they built up the entire thing is indicative that, they can, suddenly change their mind. Capacity building takes time. Intentions can change overnight. So you never know when the intentions of the adversary will change. So to prevent those intentions from changing overnight, we must be prepared. Preparation will prevent. And if you are prepared, there will never be anything that will be caught on the wrong foot. So that must continue irrespective of the trade or whatever the relationships we have. I think they are our adversaries. They will remain our adversaries irrespective of what is going to happen. We must be prepared. And if you are prepared, I think we can prevent any wrong happenings along the LAC or even for that matter along the LOC. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. That was really some valuable inputs. And dear readers, please log into our website news18.com to read this exclusive story that we broke this morning. And please follow us on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrita.